After years and years of studying, healing, teaching, guiding, sharing, what I honestly believe to be the biggest conspiracy, and when you think of it, it is dark, is this idea and belief that we are separate from our Creator. I want you to think about that for just a moment, because all of the dark things that have been exposed, all of the programming from society, the division between each other through things like religion, right? Religion is, in my mind, it's like a corporate construct of spirituality. There is this program of separation that manifests in so many different avenues, not just through religion, not just through what you think of as spiritual framework, but through politics, through race, through gender even. Those are just a few things. But anything ultimately that allows us room to believe that we are separate from one another ultimately brings us back to this separation from the divine, from source, from our Creator. And unfortunately, it's been done so tactfully and slowly that it's creeped its way into our homes, into our families, even into ourselves. And that's from all of the trauma work that I do. What I've noticed is, and I am right there with everyone that has walked in through my door because I had to go through it too. But when we are disconnected from our Creator, we become disconnected with the love, the unconditional love within ourselves. Because there is no separation between us and the divine, us and God. And that peace of God that lives within each and every one of us, when we are taught or when we adopt that belief, that framework that we are separate from God, it disconnects us from ourselves, from our inner truth, from our inner voice, from our intuition. And when it goes further, it disconnects us from our bodies, where we become disassociated, where we learn to hate ourselves, not be able to look in the mirror, not be able to walk in through the front door of your home and, not reach for the remote to turn the TV on right away because you don't want to be alone with yourself. You don't want to be alone with your thoughts, with your body. And so I'm talking about this on a very simplistic level, but I want you to know that there is no separation between you and your Creator. And I want to give you that invitation to remember, not to discover, but to remember that truth. Because back to what I was saying, everyone that comes in for hypnosis or an intuitive guidance reading or whatever it may be, ultimately there is some part of self-esteem that's been kind of robbed from us. And so when we are not loving ourselves and unconditionally accepting ourselves for who we are, we get triggered by other people. We hold on to trauma from our past. We learn to move through life looking for power wherever we can grab it. And we don't even realize sometimes that that's what we're doing. But how many people do you know And if you want to get honest with yourself, maybe you even have some of these tendencies. I know I did, and I still see them sometimes creep up, and I have to catch them. When you feel that need to control, it is because there is some part of you that feels powerless. And so if we're giving our power away to television, to these organizations, religions, politicians, groups, gurus, whatever they may be, we are seeking power. We are subconsciously trying to take some power back, or wanting to give our power to someone else, because there's a form of comfort in that as well. But ultimately, it all leads back to we must be connected and know that we are connected, even if we feel broken. We are connected to our divine creators. And in that, it makes us connected to one another on the deepest level. So if you think a negative thought about somebody else, and sometimes you feel like it's warranted, I've been there many times. If we can adopt the belief and really practice this, because it's not an overnight, fix within the mind, within the body, within the energy body, but knowing that we are not separate from one another allows us to have more compassion, to gain more understanding of why this trigger is coming up, why this person is triggering me, what it's triggering me, what emotion is it bringing up, because that person doesn't realize it outside of you, but that person is only triggering something within you that needs healing, attention, space to move through, to process. And so I want to bring you back to love, because that has been a gift in my life. And more so within the past 10 months or so, I feel like the divine has led that love back to me, outside of me, to really help me remember on an even grander scale just how important love and connection and acceptance is. And it takes time. And that's why we have one another, not just to trigger us and show us, what needs to be healed, but also sometimes to remind us to come back to the heart. So when you're watching programs, I feel like I sound like my great grandmother. No, I watched a program today. But think about the words that are in everyday language. Think about the phrases that we say, the sayings. Think about how normal it has become to complain and to gossip and to really slander other people to keep us in a victim state of consciousness. Okay? If you're into the conspiracies at all, know that as much truth as there is in many of these conspiracies, they're really not conspiracies at all. When you gather your information and you know enough to kind of satisfy yourself, get out of that tunnel, because it feeds negative emotion. It feeds fear in you, and ultimately it feeds that disconnection. Now it's us versus them, just in a different light. We must come back to love. We must come back to ourselves, because as a collective, and I truly believe this, it's not woo. As a collective consciousness, we have the ability to shift, to be greater, to evolve into something that maybe even the conscious community doesn't fully know and understand. But it has to start with us. So if we're, and I did it when all of these things were, even before the Epstein files came out, when I left the Jehovah's Witness organization, I was on this quest for truth. Why? Because of the conditioning of the religion. They actually called themselves the truth. That's what the inner, when I was a witness, I would say, oh, how long have you been in the truth? Were you raised in the truth? We didn't say, are you a Jehovah's Witness or I'm a Jehovah's Witness? No, we called it the truth. And so one of the very first things that I needed to kind of deconstruct in my mind was, if this is not the truth, is there a truth? What is the truth? And I went on this quest for a truth because of that programming. So in that, in that quest, in that journey, in that, thirst that I was seeking for real truth, it led me down some dark rabbit holes where, yes, those things I truly believe, those dark things are really happening. But what can I do to fix it? I have to lift my own vibration. I have to work on me, because there are situations where there's nothing that can be done. I can't go out and find these people. I don't know where these people are. What can I do? And while there are ways to, fight back, I feel like my mission in fighting back is to love the hell out of myself and carry a high frequency and share that with other people. And we all have our jobs. We all have our roles to play in this beautiful infinite web, right? We are all pieces of the same puzzle. But my point is, when you go down those dark rabbit holes, it breeds a lot of fear in you. And that in itself can keep you disconnected. So remember the love within you. Remember that God is not outside of you, like religion taught us he, she, it is. God is inside of you, and we are all reflections of one another, reflections of the divine. When someone speaks to you, if you choose to, you can look at it like, God is speaking to me. The divine is speaking to me through that person, through that child, through whatever it is. So if this resonated, I know I get off on a little bit of tangents, but it's because I'm so passionate about us healing and loving ourselves and sharing our truths, our voices, learning, growing, connecting with one another, sharing information and love with our children, with our partners, with our communities. Nothing is coincidence. It's always the way that we look at it. It's always our perspective, our lenses that we're filtering everything in life through. So that power belongs to us. We get to choose how we look at things, how we view things. And as far out there as it may be, if we can choose connection and knowing that God is not outside of us, rather within us, everything in your life will begin to shift. So if it resonated with you, please leave a comment below, like the video, share it. But I hope that it inspired something in you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. And thank you for being a light in this world. I will see you on the next video.